Well, one of the things we were talking about before you came on, Michael, is that the polling that just came out on CNN that says only 29% of the American public view Democrats in a positive light. That's also coming from Democrats who are very angry at Democrats for not fighting back harder. Yes. What I wanted to ask you, are you mad at Chuck Schumer right now?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I
Super pissed at Chuck Schumer.
Okay, can I show you this clip of AOC and then I want your response for it? It's number one because she too is pissed off at Chuck Schumer.
Schumer, I guess the Senate Democratic leader, your senator, said at this meeting that he is going to vote for cloture. He is going to vote to allow there to be a simple majority vote. You think that's wrong?
I believe that's a tremendous mistake. Yes.
Why?
I think, well, first and foremost, the American people, if anyone has held a town hall or has seen what has been happening in town halls, American people, whether they are Republicans, independents, Democrats, are up in arms about Elon Musk and the actual gutting of federal agencies across the board. This continuing resolution codifies much of this chaos that Elon Musk is wreaking havoc on the federal government. It codifies many of those changes. It sacrifices and completely eliminates congressional authority in order to review these impulsive Trump tariffs that he's switching on and off.
Would you, what do you think of the job that Chuck Schumer is doing? Would you ever challenge him, do you think?
I think that what we need right now is a united Senate Democratic caucus that can stand up for this country and not vote for cloture and not vote for this bill.
That's not a no, by the way.
So, yes.
And there, yeah, that's not a no. That she wasn't going to run against Chuck Schumer. Look, she's one of the most skilled American politicians, hands down, easily. Do you think she's the future, Michael? And then I also just want to state it came out, earlier today. Clay, I think you actually texted me that Chuck Schumer has had to cancel some of his book tour dates because of the amount of death threats he's getting. It's obviously not something anything wants, and it makes me really sad. That being said, I think Chuck Schumer is way past, I think we need age limits in politics in general, and he's way past the deadline, I think, of someone who should have stepped down. What do you think, Michael?
I agree. I mean, I don't want to say it's because of his age. I don't think it is. I mean,
It doesn't help.
it doesn't help, but Bernie's out there rabble rousing, holding huge rallies, and I think he's older than Schumer. I don't want Bernie running for president at his age, but I don't think age is necessarily an impediment to doing the right thing. It just feels like Schumer is so captured by the political class that he's incapable of just saying, no, I'm not going to support this because it's wrong. He was left with two bad options. We understand that. We understand that the Senate all Democrats are left with two bad options. Either you support this continuing resolution or you do not. And by not supporting it, essentially it forces the government to shut down if you're on the Senate side, because they have the filibuster. And I understand their reluctance to vote to essentially shut down the government. Of course, I understand that nobody wants to do that. The problem is you're voting to support a bill that A, you weren't a part of, you had no ability to negotiate, and B, you're not even getting anything as a compromise. You're not getting anything in exchange for your vote. And if you just allow if you allow the government to shut down, what's going to happen is they're going to continue to dismantle agencies. They're going to continue to fire people. I understand that. If you let the CR pass, what's going to happen is they can continue to dismantle agencies and they're going to continue to fire people. And you will now be partially responsible for that because you voted for it. That's why I have a problem with it. Because what you're doing is you're allowing them to continue this project of destroying the federal government, and you're not even getting anything in return. I think it's disgusting.
I mean, listen, so we vote for mostly the same people, Michael, I imagine. I'm on the other side of it, though. I mean, I feel like, listen, there's nothing that Republicans love more than no government. So I just can't think of any better gift to Elon Musk and Donald Trump than letting them shut down the government. And traditionally, we've gotten the blame when those types of things have happened, when government shutdowns have happened. Even though that's almost exclusively been Republicans who've shut them down, it's been us who end up getting the chunk bitten out of our ass. And I think that, I guess I personally have a problem with being the party for the last, it happened in 2010, it happened in 2012, multiple times that we've seen a government shutdown, always being the party that says it is absolutely unacceptable to shut the government down until we don't like you. And I think that just goes back for me. to that authenticity thing. Like, are we full of shit? Are we only doing it because we want to get back at Trump? And if I thought shutting the government down might stop him in some way, I might be a little bit more comfortable with it, more comfortable with finally being okay with the government shutting down. But as you said, it just gives him it's just shutting the government down is just going to give him more ability to, run roughshod over so many things. So, I appreciate the fact that Chuck Schumer did not tell people how they had to vote. He said, vote your conscience. If Chuck Schumer and like one other person had been the ones who had, and Mark Kelly or somebody in a more moderate state had been the only ones who had voted against it, or who had voted for cloture, it would be one thing. But you're looking at people like Brian Schatz in Hawaii, who, like, there's no chance in hell a Republican's ever going to win there. That's the most liberal state in the country, and he voted for cloture. So there were people who recognized it. There were Democrats who recognized it is for them more important to live to fight another day by having the government open, having our staffs with us to try to push back on some other things. And I happen to believe that Chuck Schumer, who I've never been a huge fan of, but as someone who has known Trump for God knows what, 117 years they've known each other, probably longer. I do think that Chuck Schumer has a bit more of a finger on the pulse of how to deal with Trump than others do. And I say that as someone who knows him a little bit and kind of remembers ways that he could be, flattered to get your way. Him coming out this week and praising Chuck Schumer. Yeah, it's going to piss Democrats off. Chuck Schumer doesn't give a shit if he's praised about Donald Trump. He doesn't want that, but he knows he's got a little Trump loves the person who was nice to him last, So I do think that Chuck Schumer has a skill and an ability to probably manipulate Trump in ways that someone who was constantly throwing fireballs and constantly just doing whatever they could to, do what Mitch McConnell tried to do to Obama. There's no way that Trump is going to work with someone like that. And if for me, this particular vote to let the government stay open was a small defeat to hopefully get a few more victories in the future. So
I think your analysis is smart and probably and represents Schumer's side better than I think Schumer is representing his own side. Like everything you're saying is exactly right if, and the caveat is if this were a normal administration, and it's not. We're in a situation where we have what is essentially a authoritarian regime at the top who is not interested in what the Democrats say, not interested in what the Democrats do, and has a singular purpose in mind. That singular purpose is dismantling the entirety of the federal government to rebuild it in an image that remains somewhat unclear to the rest of us, but which produces a lot of fear. And I don't think that going along to get along is really going to accomplish anything. I'm at a point right now, and I think a lot of Democrats feel like this, where I sort of feel like one of those French saboteurs in World War II who's running around with a black turtleneck and black face paint and blowing up railroad tracks and cheering on when the Allied planes come and drop bombs on my own village because I know it'll hasten the end of the war. Like that's kind of where
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
at. Like I'm just
very
kind of
intense.
Listen,
but I sort of feel like just let them do what they're going to do. Let them destroy what they're going to destroy, and let's get it over as quickly as humanly possible so that we can start to rebuild from the rubble. Because
Can I ask you,
let me just finish
Sorry,
the
go
point. While I agree with you, Clay, that there may be some tactical maneuvering going on with Schumer and the Democrats, I think all you're doing is arresting you might be slowing down the project not by very much, and by agreeing to his demands, which is what voting for the CR does. Is in my mind, you end up being a collaborator, and that's really what I find so upsetting about it.
Let me tell you what scares me.
Who can lead you to the promised land? Both of you. Is there
Well,
anyone
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer.
Okay.
But right now,
Nobody.
I agree with
Okay.
Michael. I agree with Michael at the moment. Right now, we don't see him. But let me tell you what I'm scared of, Michael, because I don't listen. Everything you're saying, I get it. I've got people around people around me who are in my party are mostly scared to death. Here's what scares me. During his first term, we were resistance. We fought everything he did. I'm not I'm glad, I guess, in many ways, but we fought everything he did. We impeached him twice, couldn't get rid of him. And every time we have thrown something at him, like the man is, it has to scare the shit out of everyone. He was not wrong when he said he could shoot someone in Fifth Avenue and get away with it. I mean, I did not think he was going to run
He
again.
doesn't scare
this
me as
time
much as
around.
he scares you, for whatever that's worth.
Well, but I didn't think he was going to run again. But as soon as we indicted him, his poll numbers went up. Every time we do something to hit him in the traditional way, and this goes back to what you're saying, Michael, about this is not a normal administration. Every time we hit him in ways that would have torn Reagan down, torn Bush down, torn Bush Jr. down. I mean, it just makes him stronger. And so while I would love to weaken him any way we can, I am scared to death that we will spend the next 2 years fighting in ways that we have tried to fight before and only find ourselves in the midterm in a worse scenario, worse situation, because we've made him more powerful. I don't want him trying to run a third term. And I just don't know, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got. I'm afraid that if we don't figure out some way to try to address Trump's crazy, that's not simply constantly throwing fireballs, that we may end up empowering him to do the things that we fear he will do the most.
I also think Democrats, like one of my biggest criticisms of Democrats is that they have to let the Democratic caucus and the Democratic voters choose their fucking candidates. Bernie should have been the nominee in 2015. Kamala should not have been, or she should have been able to earn it on her own. Biden obviously screwed Democrats. There's a lot of other factors here beyond just messaging that have really hurt the party and the coalition. And I think there have been people like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi pulling strings in this direction. I think people are sick of it. So I just hope for 2028, like the voters actually get to be heard within their party, because I do believe there've been a lot of people pushing a lot of things that have been unfair.